Oh, hey, we're getting unwhelmed.
Okay, hi, hello. It is Friday. You know what that means? Unwhelminar. Do do do. I could not be more pleased to have our guest with us today on Veterans Day. She is going to talk with us about military service, about probably a little bit about trauma in military service, if I had to guess. And we are going to talk about radical self-care. We're going to talk about following dreams, all the usual Unwhelminar stuff, as is usual, because it is 11:01 and it's my show. I get to spend the first 5 minutes telling you all great things that Unwhelminars are and all the things that Unwhelm Coaching does. So beware, friends, today. I'm saying this out loud. It's on video. It's live on Facebook. It's recording. Today, I get a first look at the designer who has mocked up 3 book covers for me to look at, which means next week, the book will be ready for publishing. We'll have it on the face places and the Insta grizzles and the ticks and the talks and the website and all of that will be self-publishing on Amazon, even though Jeff Bezos is a real, doesn't matter. We're just going to take his money and line his pockets, but let's make him filthy rich by buying a jillion copies of my book. It'll be fun. We also, if you happen to be in Santa Fe, if you're watching this today, Friday, the 11th of November, we are having our Friday at 4 today, and we will be at the Santa Fe Hotel Inn on Cerrillos. Super excited because a new team has taken over management and they are rebranding and working on the aesthetic. And so we're going to have, we're probably going to ingest some Lulu's Chinese food today, which frankly, there's really no reason not to, but we're very excited. 4 o'clock in Santa Fe. If you're not sure, if you don't think you'll remember, just go to the website. You can find it there, or hit me up with a text, or carry your pigeon or whatever you need to. It is also almost Small Business Saturday. At Unwhelm Coaching, we reject the masculine, patriarchal, aggressive capitalist model while also taking your money. Don't ask me how it works, it just does. But we are participating in Small Business Saturday. So you'll be able to get the book and the companion workbook at a great price. You'll be able to take advantage of special membership pricing, gift certificates, blah, 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 sell, buy, whatever. Unwhelmcoaching.com. I am Katie Christensen. I am the owner, founder, and head bitch in charge at Unwhelm Coaching, which kind of means I do whatever I want to do or get to. It's a privilege to get to do whatever I want to do. It also means I do the things. So I walk alongside all of my overwhelmed sisters, and I offer my support to unwhelm you, to lift you up from underneath the shit that is overwhelming you. So I'm here to help you get your shit together. And if you can't even find it, I'm here to help you find it. I'm here to support you, hold you accountable, coach you, love you, make you feel good. I am your hype woman, your paid best friend. I mean, Jen's been paying me for years. So, that's true. So as also is the custom, we will be starting with a grounding moment. As usual, if you're listening to the podcast and, walking your dog or driving your car or operating heavy machinery, please keep your eyes open. But if you are in a place where you can do so, I invite you now to join us in a moment of calm and quiet, which ironically isn't always my specialty, so it becomes a challenge for me. So I issue this challenge to you as well, to find some moments for calm and quiet and peace. So if you would join me now with your feet on the floor, if you can, make sure your booty is centered in a chair, sit right back down into your ass, roll your shoulders up and back, move your head side to side, and imagine the fluid smoothness of your spine, and roll and squish it back and forth like a wave. Get that spinal fluid moving. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, or just focus your gaze softly somewhere in your environment. And when you're ready, bring your body to a point of stillness and raise your hands, palms up, about shoulder height. And we're going to breathe in deeply through your nose. And hold for a moment and release. And again, in through your nose and out. I'd like you to take your fingertips and place them on your jaw at the point where your jaw hinges. And just hold steady with some pressure here for a moment. Feel free to massage in small circles forward and back. And move your fingers around. And if you find a point that's tender, I encourage you to stop there and just hold some pressure and breathe in and out. And when you're ready, you can continue to massage or you can just hold your hands on your jaw. Society tells us in so many ways to keep this jaw closed, to speak appropriately or politely. And as women, it is especially important that we be nice, don't make waves, don't talk too much, too loud, too fast, too aggressively. So I want you to imagine this light from your fingertips into this jaw, loosening all of those muscles, loosening those emotions, removing those restrictions, enabling you to speak your truth, to hold your place, to take up your space. Anytime you feel held back or silenced, I invite you to return to this space with a simple touch on your jaw and some big breaths. With one more big breath in and out, I invite you to join us back in this space. Thank you. Ladies, and if gentlemen are listening, you are welcome to, and we welcome all of our sisters, whatever your shape or size or whatever your external parts look like, your soul is welcome here, and we are glad to have you. My guest today, I'm so excited. I met Elora Kindred in our work together with the She Recovers Foundation. Elora has been a partner of the She Recovers Foundation, donating a piece of her hard-earned profits to the foundation. Elora's commitment to recovering out loud is centered in her own truth and her own belief. She is a veteran of the military. She is a veteran of life. She is a recovery coach certified. She is also wrapping up her She Recovers certification. She went from military life to corporate life to hardcore introspection, burnout, recovery. And in doing so, in journaling and in doing things that fed her soul and made her feel whole, she discovered a gift for poetry, writing, and photography, and has been sharing it with us ever since at her beautiful shop at elorasong. And I encourage you at any point to go to elorasong.com. We'll put that in chat and we'll also put it in the Facebook comments. But y'all, her site alone, when you just go and browse to her shop, I guarantee your blood pressure is going to drop and you're going to find yourself going, oh, it just makes you feel good. So welcome to our Unwhelming Elora Kindred.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Katie. I absolutely love your platform. It's so real. It's just authentic, and I'm really glad.
Thank you.
here.
Thank you. I want to start today by acknowledging that it is Veterans Day. And I often have some conflicting feelings around Veterans Day because I hear people saying Happy Veterans Day. And I'm like, I mean, okay, but also I rather encourage people to have a somber Veterans Day, to have a reflective Veterans Day, a grateful Veterans Day, and to recognize that in this particular country, we ask people to give us their whole lives in service, their whole lives, their families, their well-being, their security, and it all comes second to what we ask them to do for this country. And so with that, I would first like to recognize your service, and I would like to offer my heartfelt and deep gratitude for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I want to ask you all the questions all the time.
I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm excited.
Let's talk about the picture of you that is in your emails today. And y'all, if you're not on her email mailing list, get there. It's like a little meditation in your inbox. When I see her newsletters come across, I'm like, oh, good. And there's this fabulous picture. I have to put it up on the screen of Elora. She was 18 years old in this photograph, tiny baby in boot camp, for God's sake. Look at her little self. Look how cute she was. So when I was gushing over this picture before we got here with our community today, you mentioned that this was like the world was your oyster at this point, and it sort of hadn't hit you yet. So I wonder if we can kind of start there with, like, how did you end up at 18 years old, that fresh-faced, bright-eyed little thing, ready for a life of military service?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, let's get in. Let's get in. All right. So originally I had actually started, well, first, hi, my name's Elora. Nice to meet you all. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Hello, family. Hello. So I decided to join the military because I was a student at U of H. I had just decided I'm going to college, told my parents I'm leaving El Paso, Texas. So this is too small. I had to go, right? So I moved to Houston, tried college, and realized I could not afford it. I was like, I want to go to school, but I just don't have money. So I went to a plaza. Every town has a plaza with the armed forces lined up. And let me tell you, I originally wanted to join the Air Force. My aunt was like, I have friends in the Air Force to brag about. I even talked to her friends about it. And I was like, okay, I'm joining the Air Force. I could not find the office in the plaza. So what I saw was Army. I said, don't want to do that. I said, Marines, no, thank you. And I saw Navy. Like, I don't know much about the Navy, but I'll try it. So I walked in, signed over my life, decided I was going to join. And on December 30th of 1997, because the recruiter told me they had so many women that needed to be joined by that time before the new year started. And I believed them. Yeah.
You met a salesperson's quota, and that's how you ended up in the military.
There you go. So I got in.
Fantastic.
Started the military, started the Navy on December 30th of 1997. And I remember waking up at 4:00 in boot camp on January 1st, thinking, what was I thinking?
Wow.
And that's all she wrote. So anyway,
My God.
there's a lot of benefits. I'm really glad I joined. I learned a lot about myself. They give you a test before you even join, that kind of stuff. And it turns out I don't have any mechanical skills, which, I knew that. But they're like, hey, you're pretty good at math. Do you want to be an air traffic controller? And I was like, okay, sure. I didn't know what that was. I actually thought it was someone that you see on the ramp,
Sure,
doing this when they pull out the planes. And I was like, okay, cool. I can do that. That sounds, it looks fun, science and all that.
I can hold flashlights, sure.
Yeah. So I get to boot camp and they had screens and monitors around and I'm learning stuff. I'm like, okay. Everybody was like, that's what you're going to do. And I'm like, all right. And I see people talking to planes. And they're like, do. And I was like, no way. So I graduate boot camp, got to A school, which is aviation school, got there and I realized, oh, this is air traffic patrol. Like you are talking to the pilots. You really are going to learn runways and airspace. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I loved it. That's when I really fell in love with aviation. So I'm really glad that I couldn't find the Air Force office. Granted, everybody's like, Air Force is all about aviation. Well, yes, so was Navy. They have the air carriers. I mean, we're all actually all a big family, no matter what armed forces you are. I'm just really glad I gained the experience I did in the Navy. But that's how it started. Like I was like, I'm going to be an environmental scientist from U of H, get my degree, and it's not what happened.
That's weird.
Life changed big time.
I want to ask you, Elora, when you woke up at boot camp, how many women were there?
Oh, I can't even recall. I just remember we had like bunk beds.
Yeah.
Lined up.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, this is a lot of people. And when we had enough to march, so I want to say at least 20 to 30. I could be wrong, but at least 20 women.
Wow.
And at least 20 women in the barracks to, we all woke up at the same time, took showers, the whole shebang, and learnned how to iron and fix our beds, get in order, all that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there are a ton of valuable skills that just being in boot camp teach you. You learn discipline, you learn order, you learn the value of order. Like you learn how important it is to have pride in a group of people, in a group and its accomplishments. How many women were women of color?
A handful.
Yeah.
And what I did have was we have leaders called RDCs. To this day, I don't remember what the acronym stands for. They're leaders, so they're the folks that yell at you and get you in order, make you do the push-ups, get you marching, all that stuff. And I actually had a Black woman as one of my RDCs. And I looked up to her like she was the goddess, right? And so anytime she was yelling at me or getting in my face, I just saw it as a challenge. She was really pushing me to do my best. And I ended up being one of the leaders in the group, in my squad. So I ended up being a rock, which is the person that sings the cadence, and they're the second in command. So I was able to be the second in command in boot camp, made quick rank, but she pushed me. She also taught me leadership. Like when someone wasn't able to do a push-up, I had to get next to that person and, walk them through it, talk it through. We got this, let's go, and it just really allowed me to see the value of helping others, especially the underdog. So it was awesome. Like I said, that Black lady right there, she was like, get on it. Kindred, get in my face. But you're right. We were able to experience leadership. Camaraderie was a big one. We had to learn to have each other's back no matter what. Yeah. Another thing was teaching each other different skills. But as you say, discipline and all that, I will have to give that to my parents and my grandparents. They taught me that up front. So all the yelling and you will fix your bed and you will clean, that already been ingrained in me already.
Yeah.
You'll do this or else, So it was like, okay, this is easy, So boot camp was easy. You
grew up in a Black Southern family. Yes, ma'am was probably like your second words. You know this.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You don't say yeah and yes. Sir, yes, ma'am. Nod your head to acknowledge me when I acknowledge you. Yeah. Right. So it was, that part was easy. It was just the getting in shape and having to open myself up to a room of women that I did not know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a big deal,
do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother. We are 7 years apart. And I tried to encourage him to join Navy or military in general. He said, not for me. He did take the test. He's a genius. I learned that. I was like, oh, you could have got a better job than me. But he decided to pass on that. But yes, I have one sibling, and he's like my baby, he's my child. But
man,
we're very close.
That means that when you went into the barracks at boot camp, it was your first time sharing living space, breathing, living everything togetherness space with a large group of people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my mom, she has a huge family. She's one of 8. So for me, this is one of 2. Yeah, big time, big difference. And learning to share space and, learn time management, get in, get out the restroom. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah,
Culture shock, culture shock.
no kidding, no kidding. What did you do after boot camp?
After boot camp, I was assigned to aviation school, did that for a few months, and then I transitioned to different duty stations. My first duty station was Liberty Island, Washington. Hey. Also,
Hey,
my second one was Naval Air Station Sigonella, Sicily. And the last one was Kingsville, Texas, NAS Kingsville, Texas. And then after that, I got discharged. And we'll roll into that soon.
yeah, no, we're ready. Dig in. I'm ready. Let me just pull my sleeves up here.
Okay.
I mean, let's talk about the experience that you had in the military, at your different posts, and the sort of revelations, these eye-opening experiences you had, for good and for bad.
Okay. I'll start off by saying at first I saw some things as good as and bad, but now I see them as all developing and part of my evolution. And as I told you before, evolution is everything to me. And it took me a long time to realize that. In my first duty station, Liberty Island, Washington, you know, I'll go back just slightly, that when I'm growing up, I was not exposed to drunkenness, that type of stuff. My parents are very adamant about me not getting into drugs and alcohol. It was just like a no, no. And so by the time I got to the military and went to my first duty station, I got my first DUI. Okay. I was already testing it out. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep up with this, you know, hey, drink like a sailor. I'm a sailor. Why not?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was already drinking early in, and got my first DUI, and it was laughed off. It was like, everybody drinks and drives, you know, well, you just got caught. That's what I was told. You just got caught. And I was like, okay, you know, and that was it. So I took it lightly. I didn't make it a big deal when I got my, had to go to class to learn about alcohol and drinking and the difference between dependence and misuse. And I was like, okay, I'll just sign off on the class. Thank you, and go back to work.
Yeah.
And I really was, when I tell you air traffic control was my identity, along with being a Navy sailor, and that was my identity, period. I'm a Black woman in the military, and I'm an air traffic controller. I will retire in the military, and I will make bank when I leave.
That's right.
That's all I knew. That's all I knew. So time progressed. I was getting qualified rapidly. I ended up transitioning over to Naval Air Station Sigonella. It was there that several things happened. And when I say several things, those are the things that, looking back on now, made me who I am today. And what I mean by that are the traumatic experiences. Those are the things some things that happened that I didn't talk about for well over 20 years. I didn't talk about until I decided to get sober. So I'll touch on that. Okay, so bear with me.
Yeah.
So got to Sigonella, Sicily. It's beautiful out there. I didn't want to go to a boat. So they said, you have a choice, go to a boat or go overseas. I said, I'm going overseas. You know what I'm saying? So,
I'll take a travel, thanks.
Right, I'm gonna go to Sicily. So I did that. While I was out there, my drinking continued. You know, I was still a party, you know, hey, let's go out there, let's do something. I was a happy drunk, as people would say. And I was just out there having fun. Still getting qualified. It was a smaller community as far as air traffic controllers. I mean, but when I say small community, everyone in the air traffic control community in the Navy knows each other. You know, it's small. You know someone. Okay,
Yeah.
so just remind you that. Okay, so I get there, got into more trouble. I started back talking folks, but what I didn't realize what it stemmed from was because I experienced military sexual trauma. And that's something I kept very quiet. I did not tell my best friend. I didn't let her know what happened. And I also didn't want to stir up anything because of who actually did it. It was 2 military policemen. So I had an issue with authority at the time. I didn't realize I had issues with sharing about what happened because I didn't trust that it would be received well. And lastly, I was drunk when it happened. So there's a lot of embarrassment, shame, issues with authority figures. I mean, and it slowly just it just balled up. right? And then I was angry with God, if you want to go in the spiritual aspect of it,
Sure.
because I'm like, how dare you let this happen to me?
Right. Right.
I'm doing my best out here. You know, I'm already facing being a male-dominated occupation.
Yeah.
I better not mess up because of, you know, I'm a Black female. I already have a standard I have to uphold. I'm only telling my parents what I've accomplished because I don't
Right.
want them to know about all the ugliness. And eventually I had to share. I'm not going to make it home this holiday season because I'm in the boot camp of getting in trouble for my last DUI. So I can't transfer on time to visit home with y'all. So I had to share that ugliness, you know, and I was ashamed to tell my parents, hey, I messed up again, you know, but hey, I got pulled over and this is what happened, you know.
Yeah.
But during that time, I didn't tell anybody the MST. That's what military sexual trauma stands for, MST. So I wouldn't dare say that amongst everything.
Yeah.
No. So kept quiet, kept drinking. Of course, military had a standard though. They said, we're gonna send you to rehab. They sent me to Spain. I laugh every time because I'm like, that's a vacation. Are you serious?
Food and wine. I mean, come on.
No work, no uniform, 30 days, sit and stay by the beach, go to group meetings. Okay, sure. Don't drink. Yes. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you could quit anytime anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they said, you shall do this if you're going to stay in the military and you want to keep your job. I'm like, okay, cool. So I did that, did what I was supposed to do. There was one instance there where they made me, they passed around a mirror and they asked us to describe what we see. And when I look back on that day, it really showed what I thought of myself internally. Externally, I was that badass bitch, you know. Yeah. I got my stuff together, uniform on point. You can't tell me nothing. I'm qualified. I'm teaching other people how to get qualified. I was great professionally. On the personal side, I saw ugliness. I saw discontent. I saw less than unworthiness. I saw everything that was opposite of a positive outlook or image of myself. And that's not where I came from. And again, I did not tell my parents because they taught me that. I'm a beautiful Black woman. Yes, you have to accomplish more than most, but know who you are at the core. You are God's child, you are our child, and you are worthy. Period. So I've forgotten all those things when that mirror was passed up to me. And I was just, just disgusted and I pushed the mirror away. So needless to say, I left, rehab. Now, again, I did my 30 days. Nothing really changed. I got back and I was forced to sign. I say forced because I wasn't ready to stop drinking.
Right.
And when I say I wasn't ready, I hadn't faced the trauma. So they tell me to stop drinking, but why should I stop drinking?
Right.
I'm numbing the stuff.
Yeah. What do I have to cope with all of the shit that's going to come up when I stop numbing, when I stop drinking?
Exactly. I'm not ready to face it. So sure enough, they sent me to a shrink, Navy shrink. Had talked to them a couple of times. And I had to sign some paperwork saying, you shall go to AA 3 times a week. You shall get some signature from someone in the meeting, every meeting. You shall have copies and documentation submitted to the Navy. That person that I'm supposed to chit chat with for an hour that was a representative of alcohol abuse disorder stuff.
And I just want to pause for a second. Was that person, you said it was a man?
Oh yeah.
So
I did it every duty station. There's
no fucking way you're gonna tell a man about your military sexual trauma. That's not how it's gonna go.
No, and I didn't, mind you, even the shrink that I was assigned to, I didn't tell her. Because mind you, she's wearing a uniform.
Of course she is. She's representing the military, not you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I only learned this because of therapy recently.
Thank you.
My therapist was like, it's the uniform, Elora. You have issues trusting people in uniform. I said, what? She was like, yeah, you weren't going to share this stuff with them. You were told to uphold a certain image in
Yeah.
their uniform. Period. You are the best. You have expectations. So why would you share something so intimate, so dear, so traumatic to someone in a uniform?
Yeah.
And
Well, you were in uniform, I'm
yes,
sure.
you had to meet with them in uniform. Now, mind you, she was in recovery.
Right.
So she was trying to get me to stop drinking, but I never touched on what happened, ever. She had me writing all kinds of stuff. It never came out. I cried a lot. You know what the heck I was crying about. So I did not talk. So when people say, well, why didn't they say something when it happened? Because it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation, their culture, their environment, their history. There's so many other variables. Okay. And when I finally told my parents, my dad was like, if anything should happen to you like that ever again, please talk to your mother. Please tell someone if it's not your mom. I was like, okay. Okay. And I could see that, when I've shared this with them in, my sobriety, and I was like, okay, here's my nightstand.
Oh, man.
He's making amends and stuff.
Hi, Four. Hi.
Hi, so here's some stuff. Love you. You know what I'm saying? And so I could see the pain on their face because they didn't know how much stuff I was holding in.
Yeah.
And so anyway, rewind. So back to Sigonella. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to keep my job. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I want to stay in the Navy. I have goals, I have aspirations. I need this. I want this. So I did what I was supposed to do, went to meetings, all that stuff. But in these meetings, and I've shared this with several people, I'm the only Black female, only Black person. And I know everybody that's sitting there.
Yep.
So again,
you still have a higher bar to meet. You have a higher expectation. You don't get to mess up.
Right. So I did make some great friends. Don't get me wrong. I still have some people that I still talk to this day. They're still in recovery. But they knew it was gonna take me a minute to get there. They were patient with me. They knew I was gonna get one more tip. Okay, Laura, it's your 24 hours.
Yep.
They knew I was gonna keep trying. I'm here, guys. Yeah. Did you drink? Yeah, yesterday.
Right. Well, keep coming back. It works if you work it. Yeah.
Right. So today, with 15 plus years, they're like, hey, when do you get there? That's cool. Yeah. But they were the ones that try to put that, plant the seed. They're the ones that try to plant the seed. And sure enough, I still was getting in trouble, got in a car accident. Fractured my hip. It's all kinds of craziness happened. They were sending me to the chaplain because I was having suicidal thoughts and adulation. And I was just like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. There's even a point in time when I was getting drunk. It's one of my drunk stories. I was getting drunk and I lived in a beautiful apartment complex, marble floors, right? You can see Mount Etna out the window. It was gorgeous. And I was just not happy. And I remember calling my grandmother. It had to be like, she lived in San Antonio at the time. It had to be like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, her time. Okay. And I'm just tossing them up. And I call her and I hear her voice. She says, hello. She always sounded tired. She answered the phone, but she would say, hello. And I'm like, me, ma, and that's all I said. And she's like, Pookie? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And that's all I need to hear. And I just felt better. Like now I just feel better just saying that. And so I just remember telling her, Mima, I feel so alone. I feel so alone. And I'm bawling my eyes out. And she says, Pookie, you are never, ever alone. And all I know is I finally just stopped, I put the drink down and I just cried. And she let me cry on the phone. She didn't say another word. She just sat there and let me let it out. And as you can tell, that's one of the stories that I will always hold dear to me. It didn't make me stop drinking, but it made me realize that even in my time of despair, there's still people that you can turn to. And that's the message I want to point out to anybody who's out there drinking, thinking that nobody cares, nobody's listening, nobody sees me. Somebody does. So reach out, talk to someone. So needless to say, I moved on to Sigonella, moved on to Kingsville, Texas, met some folks out there. And as I mentioned before, ATC community is small. So I'm like, all right, here I am checking in, and people already knew about my issues from Sigonella. People already knew about my DUIs. I mean, it was bad. It was like, I can't even say hi. Like, you already know my story, right? There was one guy in particular, I won't ever forget his name, but I won't say it.
You can write it down and burn it later. That's fine.
Right. Just know I won't ever forget him. There's one guy in particular that made it particularly hard for me. Even when someone would mention a party's happening, or hey, we're gonna go somewhere, and hey, Kindred, you want to go? I get invited. He would turn to them and say, and I'm like, who are you? Like, you don't know me, you know? And of course, that's when my walls started coming up.
Heck yeah.
You know, and I remember being called a Negra, you know? I won't say the actual word. A Negro. This
is like the year 2005.
This was 2005, 6, 7.
The fuck?
Yeah. So I remember going out having at the time I was a smoker, had my little smoke pit time, smoke break, and dude came out like, hey, I said, what?
A white dude.
Yes. But no. I don't remember. I'm gonna tell you now, I don't remember everything I said to this guy, but he cried. He was crying when I finished. And I just remembered, I remember my grandma coming out my mouth. I remember saying, my grandma didn't even let nobody say this. I just remember going in on it.
Good. I
remember saying, he's like, and he claimed he said it because a Black male that we served with said it, and they had that chit chat. And I was like, well, that may work with him, but not with me. You don't get to say that to me. How dare you? You know, I remember saying that. You don't get to say that to me.
Yeah.
I didn't give you permission. What are you talking about? That doesn't work for everyone. And then there's been another instance where I really got to know and learn that people come from all over the states, and in some places they aren't exposed to people like me. They haven't been introduced to Black people or people of color, period. Right. So there's one young man, he's all beaming, and we're all talking in the tower, you know, catching up like we do. And he was like, yeah, I'm on a date with the colored girl last night. And everybody stops and looks at me like, what you about to say?
I just have this vision in my head of like, he said that and everybody just like scoots back. Oh, shit.
That's exactly what happened. And so I'm just like waiting for him to finish the story, because even though I was, you know, the angry person on the inside, you know, from my own experiences, I still wanted to hear what he had to say, because the last guy, you know, that wasn't genuine. He was just being ugly. So this person, he was really excited about sharing about his date and who she was and all the stuff. I let him finish, and I said, you know what? I said, just make sure. I said, going forward, I said, don't call her colored girl. I said, just call her some woman that you met, or you had a wonderful date with someone last night. I said, because I can assure you, if you say this to her, or I told my friends or my Navy folk that I went on a date with the colored girl, I said, you're not gonna go on another date.
Full stop.
Yeah, I said, I can assure you, she's not gonna accept another date from you at all. And he was like, oh, and I said, let me explain why. Yeah. And so I explained it. Everyone kind of chimed in, said their piece, and it was done, you know? So he was really getting educated on the history of that language. Like, you don't say that, you know? But he didn't know. He didn't know. He came from a place where it just wasn't exposed.
Right.
Again, like you said, it was 2005, 2007. Jesus. Still. So I just want to, you know, express to folks, and I have many friends and comrades and fellow veterans that can vouch with me that, the stuff still exists, even in the military. Racism is still there. It doesn't disappear just because we're all wearing a uniform. We all have that camaraderie. We're all doing the same mission. Okay, yeah, but we still have personalities.
Yeah.
That personality. So when you're standing side by side, you have to set aside that personality when it's time to go.
Yeah.
And fight the mission. So it's trying sometimes.
That's a really, I think it's one of the major contributing factors to the reluctance of women and men in the military to bring forth their military sexual trauma, is that the military teaches you when it's go time, you are not an individual with needs and wants and desires. When it's go time, you're part of the team. And the team is what matters, whatever the team is defined as. And no, you're not going to leave anyone behind, but you're there in service of this goal, and everything about you just has to be put away.
Yeah, there's no individualism.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And the emotions and all that needs to wait.
Yeah. You can do that. You can cry on your own time.
Yeah. And they're doing their best. I won't say their best only because now, like I personally went through the VA to get my therapy, to get therapy about MST. It was free. I was like, okay, I was a little nervous, but she acknowledged, she acknowledged that she, one, was not a Black female, and she knew that I had seen different things that some people just cannot identify with.
Yeah.
But she was listening, she was open to it. She brought out some stuff in me that I didn't know was still sitting there. And I was like, I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? but that's why I act like that. That makes sense,
Yeah. When you have those moments, do you look back and you go, oh, sure, that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's no denying that. No denying that. But I'm grateful that today there's other avenues in recovery. There's other avenues for veterans or active duty military to venture out and seek help. You don't have to do AA. You don't have to do NA. There's other avenues. I'm so glad society is finally realizing that. I'm just hoping that the military embraces that as well.
Yeah.
And allowing our service members to seek the help that we need. Period.
I'm relieved to hear that as well. I have been sober, and I was an early exeter, light drunk, day drinker, whatever you want to call it. I don't have dramatic stories and a clear rock bottom. I just realized, thank all the goddesses, that I was on a slippery slope and having a relationship with booze that was not a friendship. This was a bad boyfriend, and my husband is 28 years sober. He's going to yell from the other room if I have it wrong, but he got sober in AA, and he got sober in a hardcore, old school biker gym, tatted up in a leaky basement. You want a drink? Go on across the street. Try some moderated drinking. I don't give a fuck. See you in the morgue or back here. And that worked for him, and it worked for him for a lot of years. And like you said, he got to 15, 20 years of sobriety and was like, yeah, you'll make it. Yeah, that first year, that first day that you're going to do over and over and over and over, that's really tough. But I think one of the things that you bring up that's really important is that AA is a deeply patriarchal recovery system. It was designed for and by white men who had the support of other white men. And though it is accessible to, women of color, trans, binary, non-binary, our LGBTQIA plus sisters, it is accessible to them. And it is a program that can work. It is not the only one. Whereas getting sober 20 years ago, that was what you got. You got inpatient rehab, or you got AA, or you got inpatient rehab and then AA. And again, the AA saved the life of several people that I love. And I really am so relieved to see coaches like the Sober Senorita, who's Kelly Fitzgerald Junco, who says, wherever you are on your recovery journey, that's good. We're going to support that. So
Right.
if you're sober curious but not ready to stop, I'm here to support that. If you are ready to quit cold turkey, I'm here to support that. And so the fact that you can talk about this and that the military is embracing those alternative models for recovery, or we're hoping that it gets there, that's a huge step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to add on to my story, I mean, I got discharged anyway due to my alcoholism. I mean, the agreement was don't get in trouble, stop drinking, and I didn't stop drinking. So sure enough, my rock bottom was I got another DUI, ended up in jail and got out. And I was like, I know I broke the rule. I got in trouble, right? I got caught. So the funny side of the story, when I say funny, is that at the duty station I was at, it was already known that I had messed up. Everybody knew about it. But I came across some folks in the military that were like, hey, I know about you, but you need to try 90 meetings in 90 days. You need to try AA. You're okay. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So what I did was, okay, I know about the seed, came back. What do I need to do? So I went into my little phone book and I looked up the meetings. At the time I was living in Corpus Christi, Texas. And just I picked one, called, asked what time. And they're like, yep, we're here. So in that interim, I ended up throwing out trash cans full of box. When I say I was embarrassed walking down the 3 flights of stairs from my apartment complex, because like, I'm looking around,
nothing to see.
Right, all right. So throw that out. And I went to my first meeting, and my first meeting where I willingly committed myself.
Yes.
And when I say everybody's like, I remember saying, what the fuck are y'all so happy about? And they all stopped and looked at me. They're like, welcome.
Was that the first time that you had any sort of inkling that sobriety could be fun? That you could find joy?
Yes, because as I mentioned, everyone was talking, having a good time. They're like, here, have some coffee. And it was oh wow. The people I met in Corpus Christi, they embraced every part of me. And then this is where I saw people of color. Okay, I was still the only Black person. However, these are some real fun.
Yeah.
Like your husband described, hey, you want to get some coffee, make it.
Yeah, right.
If you're going to serve it to everyone.
That's right. You sat down with your own coffee.
Right. You're going to clean the facility. You're going to welcome every person.
You pass the basket. Yeah.
Get outside yourself.
Yeah.
That's what they taught me. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's how it works.
Oh, I see.
Right. So I needed that. I needed folks to see me, but also to say, hey, it ain't always about you.
Yeah.
It's not always about you. Sit here and listen. Stop talking. Okay. And I when I tell you, look, I have my photo of my first sponsor with me. I always have her. When I have like podcasts and stuff like that, this is Jane. And I always have my Mima with me too. When I do things like this, that's Mima. So they've been integral parts of my life. But yes, AA and all that, it works for me. I got kicked out of the military honorably. I'm grateful for that. At the time, the Navy acknowledged that alcohol dependence was an issue. And so that's the only reason why I have an honorable discharge. Wow. It has alcohol rehabilitation failure on my DD 214, which is my discharge papers. And I'm saying that publicly because I want people to know.
Yeah.
I will never be able to join the military ever again. I can't even do the reserves. But at least they acknowledged at that time that, hey, there's something going on. There's an issue here. So.
And words matter. I think it's interesting that that your reason for discharge is alcohol treatment failure, not that this is a disease or that that I don't know, the military may have played a part in putting you here, right? I mean, that the word failure is on your discharge paper. That alone, that language just reinforces that shame. And,
Right.
and you continue for the rest of your life, you will be punished for the mistakes that you made under the influence of a substance that was just trying to save your goddamn life. You were just trying to get through a day. Every
Right. So
fucking
you
day.
can imagine having to apply to jobs and they ask you for that paperwork. Okay. And they ask you for that copy. So that copy has to show why I was discharged.
Shit.
And I tell you, my first few years of sobriety was like, so for me to be where I am today, to pull away from that shame or oh my gosh, they're gonna see that, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
But I want to acknowledge and thank you again and again for talking about it, because my husband often says we plant the seeds or we put energy into the universe. And just because you plant a seed and water it doesn't mean that's the plant you're going to harvest. That you're going to put this energy out into the universe and it's going to come back to you. And it may not be a one-to-one correlation. You're going to give and be your best self in this place, and somewhere over here, something is going to materialize that you never expected. But there is that balance. And so let's just play a game. And let's say at some point you're saying these things out loud, and a person who is in authority making the decision about hiring people hears you say this and sees you. And then they go to their job and they see it on someone else's paper, or they're able to have a conversation that says, I want to acknowledge, or we welcome applications from people who have experienced this. I mean, that's the way this starts. And you talking about it and writing about it and being open about it opens up this amazing space for us all to collectively stop participating in that shame.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
I want to. Oh yeah, you're so good. I was like, I want to ask you. Good segue. Talk about this amazing book, about how you got the gig to write for this book, and then I would love to hear some of this.
Okay. All right. This book is Leave No One Behind. It's a book by Hazelden Publications. It's daily meditations for military service members and veterans in recovery. I was actually chilling last year, full-fledged, full guns ho, straight ahead, nothing but entrepreneurship. And I was just like, let me do some freelance writing. Let me see if I can find something. And on Indeed.com.
No way.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, they're looking for veteran writers in sobriety.
Hang on, that's me.
And so I applied, and next thing I know, and it was really just to be a freelance writer. So anyway, turns out they ended up hiring me as a freelance writer, contributor, and facilitator. So what I did was I was able to facilitate not meetings, but interviews with veterans in recovery. I got to write their stories, hence ended up being in here. And I got to share my own story, and my story's in here as well. Wow. So when I tell you, that was what really opened me up to saying, okay, now I know what I want to coach about and who with, I was just like, okay, this is it. I want to coach veterans.
Yeah.
I get it. I finally get it. And so, like I said, it's a really awesome meditation book. It has the first name, last initial of the individuals that contributed. It also has the service that they were in, whether it be Navy, Air Force, Marine, plus the years of service. Wow. So it's really neat because you get to see like, oh, okay, you may even know some folks. Yeah. But you get to see that there's a lot of military veterans out there that are practicing recovery or are in the midst of curiosity, sober curious, and just want to say, hey, we're here. Yeah. We're here, active duty or otherwise. We are here, and we're here to support each other. And it was an awesome experience to be able to write and share my story. So
I want to ask you, what does your Mima think about that book?
Woo, girl, you're gonna have me cry again. I'm so serious. When I finished it, I looked at these photos and I said, we did it. That's exactly what I said. And I cried because I was like, I said some things and shared some things in these books that nobody knew about. I hadn't talked about yet. So again, it was about getting outside of myself and helping that next person. So when I tell you, I felt their presence and I felt me on, I was like, yep, thank you, And so, yeah, it was a great experience to be a part of this. You want me to read the one?
I would love to hear this. Yeah.
All right, very quickly. It happens to be for November 10th. This is one of them. It's called Letting Go of Self-Blame. For over 21 years, I blamed myself for getting raped by 2 military police officers. I didn't tell a soul, not even my best friend. I was so ashamed that I drank and found myself in that predicament. That's when my military career started going downhill. I made the rank of E5 in less than 5 years, which is crazy. I was even getting qualified in air traffic control positions at an accelerated rate. But after the incident, I got another DUI. This is on top of talking back to first-class petty officers and showing up late for duty. I had to go to captain's mast and got demoted. For me, that was the worst thing that could happen aside from going to jail. They also sent me to rehab for 30 days, but it wasn't about saving my life. I did what I needed to do to keep my job. I kept silent and I was discharged for alcohol rehabilitation failure. It wasn't until recently that I was able to release the self-blame I've carried all these years. In therapy, I learned that no one has the right to invade my space, to invade my femininity, whether I have been drinking or not. Meditation. Today, I will continue to let go of self-blame, knowing I am only responsible for what I do, not for what is done to me. Elora K, U.S. Navy, 1997 to 2007.
Thank you. Can you read the last sentence of your story again? That no one has the right?
Yes. I learned that no one has the right to invade my space, to invade my femininity, whether I have been drinking or not.
Elora, I cannot possibly thank you enough. When I first found your website and then the first phone call we had, when I met Elora, I just can't even imagine your point of view because I was in development. So I'm like responsible for fundraising. So like this very eager, white, excitable lady is like, oh my God, I love your stuff. You're so great. Oh my God. I'm glad to say that as our conversation progressed, she was like, I mean, this really is her. Okay. And then by the end of our phone conversation, I mean, I just felt like I had found a friend, and I so deeply admire the work that you have done, the work that you are doing, that you bring forward. I wish I had another hour to talk to you. I want to know about how you've incorporated your photography and your poetry and your writing. But I will tell people to visit elorasong.com and read the blog, read about Buy All the Things. I sent your website to several people this morning. I was like, oh my God, you have to come to the webinar today. And then of course, immediately I was like, check her out. And so, you know what, you're welcome. Your holiday sales just got a nice boost today because they were like, oh, these are great.
Thank you.
Tell your friends. Small Business Saturday coming up, elorasong.com. I wish we had another hour. Your story is so powerful. Your strength is palpable. The love that you have for your fellow veterans, the support that you express, and the way that you have dug down so deep to reconnect with your family, your heritage, your truth, your femininity, your Blackness, yourself is fucking magical. You are magical. So
much.
Thank you. Thank you. I encourage everyone once again to go on unwhelmcoaching.com. The replay of this fantastic hour will be there. It will be available as podcast. And Elora has been gracious enough to give us a freebie. So go to unwhelmcoaching.com. This episode will be up by Monday, and you'll be able to download a freebie, which is just beautiful. And then, of course, while you're there, you might as well just add some other things to your cart. And honestly, when you can find some quiet moments and breath to really dig into and hear what Elora has to say, at the heart of all of it is, I see you and I love you. And it is, it's such a gift. So thank you. Elora Kindred, founder and creative director of Elorasong LLC, Black, sober, veteran, badass. We are grateful to you. And we're grateful for your service. Thank you for joining us on Veterans Day. Anything else you want to say before we sign off today?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And it was an honor to be here.
Right on.
Appreciate it.
Oh, hey, we're getting unwhelmed.
And as always, you can catch all of our recordings on our website at unwhelmcoaching.com.